Welcome to World English Academy. Hello and welcome, everyone, to World English Academy, where learning English becomes an adventure. Here at World English Academy, we are more than just a language school. We are a community of dreamers, explorers, and learners from around the world. Each day, we come together to grow, connect, and open our hearts to new experiences. And today, we have something special for you. We are going to share a story that is very close to our hearts, a story about courage, self-discovery, and the power of stepping into the unknown. It's called The Unexpected Journey. This is the story of Emma, a young woman who receives a mysterious postcard that leads her on a life-changing adventure across the world. Through new cultures, friendships, and personal challenges, Emma discovers not just the beauty of travel, but also the beauty within herself. As you listen to Emma's story today, we invite you to imagine your own journey. After all, learning English is just like Emma's adventure, full of surprises, new friendships, and moments that will change your life. So, sit back, relax, and let's begin the unexpected journey together. Welcome to the family. Welcome to World English Academy. The Unexpected Journey. Emma Parker was a creature of habit. Every morning, she sat at the same corner table of the little cafe on Maple Street, sipping her black coffee, nibbling on a croissant, and reading a book. The cafe owners, a kind elderly couple, knew her order by heart. Her life in the small town was predictable, comfortable, and perhaps a little too quiet. But deep down, Emma had always carried a quiet longing to see the world. Ever since she was a child, she had pinned postcards from distant countries on her bedroom wall. The Eiffel Tower, the pyramids of Egypt, the canals of Venice. Yet, between work, bills, and the familiar rhythm of life, the dream had stayed tucked away, like a book gathering dust on a high shelf. One Tuesday morning, rain splashed against the window as Emma flipped through a second-hand novel she had picked up from the town library's clearance sale. As she turned a page, something slipped out and fluttered onto the table. It was an old, faded postcard with a black and white photograph of a mountain range. On the back, in neat cursive handwriting, it read, "If you find this, book a ticket to anywhere." Emma stared at it, amused. Was it a joke? A forgotten note from a past traveler? Still, as the rain drummed on the glass, something inside her shifted. The postcard felt like a sign. By the end of the day, on a sudden wave of courage, she had booked a one-way ticket to Italy. Rome, the eternal city. Rome greeted her with warm sunshine and the buzz of Vespas weaving through narrow streets. Emma felt out of place at first, dragging her suitcase over uneven cobblestones and dodging the fast-moving locals. But soon, awe took over. The Colosseum rose majestically before her, ancient and worn, yet proud. The scent of fresh bread and espresso filled the air. Every corner revealed history, marble fountains, hidden churches, and centuries-old stone steps. One afternoon, Emma found herself wandering beyond the bustling piazzas, through a quiet alley painted in ivy and lined with small art galleries. That's where she met Luca, a young artist sketching the skyline on a worn sketchpad. His tousled dark hair and easy smile made Emma pause. After a casual greeting, they started talking, and soon, he offered to show her the real Rome. Luca's Rome was different from what Emma had seen in guidebooks. He took her to a forgotten monastery garden hidden behind a crumbling wall, where orange trees swayed gently in the breeze. They shared homemade gelato while sitting on a rooftop that overlooked the Tiber River at sunset. He introduced her to a tiny family-run trattoria where the owner, Signora Marta, served pasta so good it made Emma tear up. Florence, a city of art. Inspired by Luca's tales of other Italian cities, Emma decided to continue her journey. She boarded a train to Florence, where the Renaissance whispered from every street corner. In Florence, Emma marveled at Michelangelo's David and wandered the Uffizi Gallery. But her favorite moment came when she got lost in the Oltrarno district and stumbled upon a tiny workshop where an old craftsman was restoring ancient leather-bound books. He let her watch, and by the end of the day, Emma found herself helping him carefully stitch pages. Venice, a dream on water. Next came Venice, the city of canals. Emma arrived just as dawn painted the water in shades of gold and rose. Gondolas drifted silently past, and bridges arched like the pages of a storybook. In Venice, she met Sofia, a fellow solo traveler from Argentina. Together, they explored the quieter corners of the city, the glassblowers of Murano, the lacemakers of Burano, and the tiny bookstores filled with floating shelves. A new Emma? Weeks passed, and Emma's one-way ticket turned into an open-ended adventure. With each city, she shed a layer of fear and routine. She learned basic Italian, picked up sketches from Luca, made lifelong friends, and even filled her own journal with stories, sketches, and pressed flowers from gardens she found along the way. Eventually, standing on a hillside in Tuscany, sipping wine as the sun set over vineyards, Emma realized that this journey had transformed her. She was no longer the woman who only read about adventures, she was living one. When she finally returned home, Emma's corner table at the cafe felt both familiar and foreign. She slipped the old postcard back into the library book it had fallen from, leaving it for someone else to find. On the back, she added one more line beneath the original message, and when you do, go with an open heart. Paris, the city of light. Emma's next destination was Paris. She had always imagined seeing the Eiffel Tower, but standing beneath it in person under a shimmering night sky felt like stepping into a dream. Paris was cold in the winter, but its streets glowed with soft golden lights, and Emma walked along the Seine, bundled in a borrowed scarf. One afternoon, inside a quiet Parisian cafe, Emma met Claire, a Paris-based travel writer who overheard Emma scribbling in her journal and asked if she was a writer too. They talked for hours. Claire invited her to a literary gathering held in a hidden bookshop that night. In that tiny, dim-lit shop, surrounded by shelves bursting with worn novels, Emma read a passage from her travel journal aloud to a small, attentive crowd. The applause and encouragement afterward lit something inside her. Maybe, she thought, she was a storyteller. Switzerland, into the mountains. Feeling inspired, Emma took a train to Switzerland. The landscape changed from city streets to towering mountains, snowy villages, and crystal-clear lakes. In a small town near Lucerne, she stayed at a rustic lodge where the windows framed snow-covered peaks. Emma joined a group of travelers for a day of hiking and laughter in the crisp alpine air. One evening, around a roaring fire, an older Swiss woman named Greta shared tales of her youth spent climbing mountains and crossing borders during more difficult times. Her words reminded Emma that journeys weren't always glamorous. Sometimes, they were about survival, resilience, and courage. As Emma gazed up at the stars from a quiet mountain trail, she realized she wasn't just collecting beautiful memories, she was learning how to see the world and herself more clearly. Morocco, the spice of life. Next, Emma traded snow for the sun-drenched streets of Marrakesh. Morocco was a feast for the senses, vibrant souks filled with colorful spices and fabrics, calls to prayer echoing through the city, and the scent of fresh mint tea everywhere. Emma wandered the labyrinthine alleys of the Medina, bartering for hand-woven rugs and silver trinkets. She shared tagine with a Berber family in the Atlas Mountains, where they spoke a mixture of broken English, Arabic, and laughter. Around their clay home, the stars burned brighter than Emma had ever seen. In Morocco, Emma learned the beauty of hospitality, how strangers could become family over a simple meal and a shared story. Greece, reflections by the sea. Finally, Emma arrived on a quiet Greek island, where whitewashed houses clung to cliffs and the Aegean Sea stretched endlessly. Here, for the first time, Emma slowed down. She spent her days swimming, writing, and reflecting. On a cliffside, she read back through her journal, from the rainy morning when she found the postcard, to her wild adventures across Europe and North Africa. The island gave Emma space to think about home. She realized how much she had grown, how much courage she had gained. But there was something else too, a yearning to share these lessons, these moments, with others. Coming full circle. When Emma finally returned to her small town months later, she wasn't the same Emma who left. She no longer just sat at her corner cafe table reading about adventures. Now, she was the adventure. And the townsfolk noticed too, the glow in her eyes, the confidence in her step. She began writing a travel memoir, pouring her experiences onto the page. And in the back of the book, just like the old postcard, she left this message: if you find this, book a ticket to anywhere. And when you do, go with an open heart. But Emma wasn't finished. She knew the world was big, and there were still countless postcards waiting to be sent, stories waiting to be lived. Japan, the art of stillness. Emma's next chapter took her far east, to the quiet temples and neon-lit streets of Japan. She arrived in Kyoto during cherry blossom season, where soft petals floated like snow across the stone paths. The city was a blend of ancient and modern, serene shrines tucked behind skyscrapers and silent tea ceremonies performed just streets away from bustling ramen shops. While volunteering at a traditional ryokan inn for a month, Emma learned the Japanese philosophy of wabi-sabi, the beauty of imperfection and impermanence. Through simple tasks like preparing rooms, folding futons, and serving guests, she found peace in the small rituals of daily life. One evening, an elderly guest named Haruki invited Emma to join him for tea beneath the cherry blossoms. He told her, to travel is not just to move through places, but to move through yourself. The words sank deep into her heart. In Japan, Emma learned how to slow down even further, to notice details, to appreciate silence, and to find beauty in fleeting moments. Thailand, embracing the unexpected. From Japan, Emma journeyed south to Thailand. Bangkok's vibrant chaos was a shock to her system, but she adapted quickly, hopping onto tuk-tuks and getting lost in night markets glowing with lanterns. Emma ended up on a remote island where she signed up for a scuba diving course, something completely outside her comfort zone. On her first dive, nerves overwhelmed her. But below the surface, surrounded by coral reefs and schools of colorful fish, a calmness washed over her. Later, while hiking through a rainforest near Chiang Mai, Emma slipped on a muddy path and injured her ankle. She was helped by a group of local villagers who offered her shelter until she could heal. During her stay, they taught her how to cook traditional dishes, shared folktales, and laughed around evening fires. It was a humbling reminder, no matter how carefully you plan, travel often leads you to the unexpected. And often, those unplanned detours become the most meaningful chapters. Peru, the mountain within. Feeling called toward South America, Emma's journey next brought her to Peru. After days of acclimatizing in Cusco, she set off on the Inca Trail, determined to reach Machu Picchu. The trek was grueling. The thin air, the steep climbs, and the moments of self-doubt pushed Emma harder than ever before. On the third day, as she struggled up a mountain pass, her backpack feeling heavier with every step, she thought about giving up. But then, at sunrise, standing on the sun gate overlooking the ancient city of Machu Picchu emerging from the mist, Emma felt an overwhelming sense of triumph, not just over the trail, but over the fear and hesitation she used to carry. She realized she had crossed many mountains, inside and out. In a journal entry that night, she wrote, "Sometimes the mountains we climb are within us." The call to give back? In Peru, Emma began noticing other travelers, younger versions of herself, who felt lost or unsure. Many asked her for advice, and she found herself mentoring them, sharing her stories and lessons. The seed was planted. Could she create something larger, something that helps others find their path through travel? The return home, a new purpose? When Emma returned to her hometown, she was no longer just reflecting on her journey, she was ready to act. With help from Claire, the Parisian travel writer, and Luca, who had remained in touch from Rome, Emma launched a small project called Open Heart Journeys, an online community and resource for first-time travelers. She began hosting workshops in her town, teaching people how to travel with purpose, how to navigate challenges, and how to embrace different cultures. Soon, she expanded it to other towns, collaborating with writers, travelers, and creatives from around the world. Emma's cafe table became a planning hub, surrounded by maps, laptops, and travelers eager to share their voices. Her small town, once so quiet and predictable, buzzed with new energy. But Emma knew she would always return to the road. Her next destination? She smiled as she pinned a fresh postcard onto her wall, next to the original one she had found in that library book. This one simply read, "The world is waiting." A familiar fear? As Emma's organization, Open Heart Journeys, began to grow, Emma found herself surrounded by people eager to discover the world. Yet, despite all her own adventures, there was still one place she had avoided: Ireland, her late mother's birthplace. It was a place filled with unanswered questions and emotions Emma wasn't sure she was ready to face. But sometimes, the road calls you where you least expect. One rainy afternoon at the cafe, Emma met Ava, a shy, young woman overwhelmed by the idea of traveling solo for the first time. Emma saw herself in Ava, full of dreams but weighed down by fear. Ava mentioned wanting to visit Ireland to trace her family roots but lacked the courage. Without overthinking it, Emma blurted out, "Let's go together." Ireland, facing the past? Landing in Dublin, Emma was immediately swept up in a mixture of nostalgia and unease. She had only been here once as a child, too young to understand the complexities of her mother's past. Now, walking the cobbled streets with Ava, she felt both like a guide and a traveler. They ventured west toward the rugged cliffs of Maher and small villages with green fields stretching as far as the eye could see. Ava, who had been timid back home, began to open up, singing in a crowded pub, chatting with locals, and even dancing during a village festival. Meanwhile, Emma sought out distant relatives, piecing together stories of her mother's youth, learning about a small seaside cottage her family had once owned but sold after a family rift. Standing on the wild Atlantic coast one evening, Emma felt waves of grief and peace collide. Coming here, she told Ava, was the one journey I kept postponing. But I think some journeys aren't just about the world, they're about finding parts of yourself you left behind. Helping others take the leap? Upon returning, Emma noticed how Open Heart Journeys had become more than a small community, it was turning into a movement. Stories flooded in, people overcoming fear, embarking on their first trips, reconnecting with family, or simply discovering confidence through travel. Emma began hosting journey retreats, gathering groups of first-time travelers in different parts of the world. These retreats weren't just about seeing new places, they were about self-discovery, mentorship, and connection. During one retreat in the Spanish countryside, Emma watched as Ava, once too anxious to travel, stood before the group and shared her story of courage in Ireland. Emma felt a surge of pride, realizing how full circle everything had become. A new challenge? But with growth came challenges. Managing an expanding project while still yearning to travel herself pulled Emma in two directions. Should she settle down and focus on leadership? Or should she continue her nomadic life? During a solo walk along a quiet Portuguese beach, Emma reflected on Haruki's words back in Japan: to travel is not just to move through places, but to move through yourself. The answer came softly. Maybe her next journey wasn't a physical one, but a journey into leadership and helping others walk their own paths. The legacy of the postcard? Emma's original postcard, the one she had found that rainy morning in the library, remained pinned above her desk. Its message had already changed her life, but now, Emma printed hundreds of similar postcards with a twist, each one left blank on the back, inviting others to write their own message before passing it on to someone new. Soon, these postcards began appearing in airports, train stations, cafes, and libraries around the world. Travelers sent Emma photos of them in Tokyo, Rio, Cape Town, and beyond. Each postcard carried not just a message, but a spark, encouraging strangers to take that first leap. The journey never ends? Emma knew her story wasn't over. The world remained wide and waiting, but now, so did the ripple effects of what she started. Whether standing on mountain peaks or in cozy cafes, Emma would always be a traveler of places, of people, and of life itself. And when asked where she would go next, she smiled and said, "Wherever my heart hasn't been yet." Burnout on the road? Months passed, and Emma found herself constantly on planes, in meetings, or hosting retreats. Open Heart Journeys was flourishing, but Emma felt herself slowly burning out. The spark that once fueled her adventures now flickered under the weight of responsibility. She missed quiet mornings, slow conversations, and writing in her journal. The Emma who once wandered cobblestone streets with wonder now sat at airport gates with weary eyes and unanswered emails. One evening, after delivering a keynote at a global travel conference in Amsterdam, Emma retreated to her hotel room, closed the curtains, and cried. For the first time since she found that postcard years ago, Emma questioned everything. Had she lost herself while helping others find themselves? An invitation to pause. Emma received an unexpected message from Luca, the artist she met long ago in Rome. He had been following her journey from afar, proud but also worried. His message was simple: come back to Rome. Just for a while. Let the world spin without you for a bit. With hesitation, Emma packed lightly and returned to the city where it all began. Back to Rome? Rome embraced her like an old friend. Luca greeted her with that same easy smile, but now there was a softness between them, unspoken but understood. They revisited hidden gardens, tiny galleries, and quiet rooftops where the city's skyline stretched beneath the stars. Emma rediscovered the joy of doing nothing, sitting in the sun, sketching, laughing over simple meals. You gave so much, Luca said one night as they sat beside the Tiber River, but even travelers need to come home to themselves. A love rekindled? Slowly, Emma realized she had been running for so long, building, growing, helping, that she hadn't left space for her own heart. Over shared moments in Rome, her friendship with Luca blossomed into something deeper. It wasn't the whirlwind romance of a travel cliché, it was steady, patient, and real. Letting go to grow? Emma returned home with a new decision. She would step back from the day-to-day running of Open Heart Journeys and let the community evolve under new leadership. Ava, now a confident traveler and mentor herself, took the reins as the new director. Emma decided to focus on writing full-time, publishing her travel memoir. She returned to quiet mornings at the cafe, but now, with Luca sometimes sketching beside her. Her book, titled The Unexpected Journey, told the story of the girl who once found a postcard and how the world changed her forever. The legacy lives on? Open Heart Journeys grew into a global movement, with retreats in dozens of countries, partnerships with humanitarian organizations, and thousands of postcards continuing to circulate, inspiring new travelers every day. Emma, now traveling at her own pace, continued to explore, but with a softer approach, no longer chasing destinations, but letting them find her. One day, while sipping coffee in a coastal village in Portugal, Emma noticed a young woman reading a library book. A faded postcard slipped out and fell onto her lap. Emma smiled quietly, recognizing the familiar handwriting. If you find this, book a ticket to anywhere. And when you do, go with an open heart. The ripple continued. Building a home away from home? With Open Heart Journeys thriving under Ava's leadership, Emma finally allowed herself to slow down. But slowing down didn't mean stopping. Instead of hopping from country to country, Emma and Luca found themselves drawn to a quiet corner of the Portuguese coast. It was a small fishing village, perched on the cliffs above the Atlantic, where waves crashed below and sunsets painted the sky in gold and lavender. They bought a rundown villa with crumbling walls and overgrown gardens. To others, it was just an old house, but to Emma, it was an opportunity, a place where travelers could come, stay, and reconnect with themselves and the world. The creation of Casa do Coração. Over the next year, Emma and Luca transformed the villa into a retreat center they named Casa do Coração, House of the Heart. Here, travelers would gather for quiet reflection, creativity workshops, nature walks, and storytelling circles. It became a haven for people who, like Emma once said, felt stuck or burned out or unsure of what was next. Emma ran writing retreats under the olive trees, while Luca taught art classes overlooking the sea. Some guests stayed for weeks, others for a season. Each left a piece of themselves behind, woven into the fabric of the home. An unexpected family. One stormy evening, while clearing debris from a nearby beach after a rough tide, Emma and Luca discovered a stray dog, shivering, hungry, and hurt. They brought him home, nursed him back to health, and named him Pharaoh, after the guiding lighthouse they could see in the distance. Pharaoh became a symbol at Casa do Coração, a reminder that even the lost find their way back. As the seasons passed, Emma and Luca quietly began discussing starting a family. Not in the rush of youth, but with the patience and wisdom gathered from years of wandering, revisiting old paths. Before settling fully, Emma decided to take one final pilgrimage of sorts. Together with Luca, they revisited some of the places where Emma's story first began. In Rome, they sat at the same cafe where Emma once first dreamed of a bigger life. In Kyoto, they lit incense at a quiet temple and thanked Haruki's memory. In Ireland, they returned to the wild coastline where Emma faced her mother's past and smiled at how far she had come. Every step of the journey reminded Emma that life is made up of chapters, and each chapter deserves to be honored. Full circle. Back at Casa do Coração, Emma finally finished her second book, a guide not just about travel, but about finding home within yourself. It was titled Open Heart, A Journey Inward. The villa became more than just a retreat. It became a living legacy. Former guests returned, bringing friends, family, or even postcards they found in distant cities. Travelers left drawings, poems, and letters tucked into the villa's guest book, turning it into a treasure trove of shared wisdom. The final postcard. Years later, Emma's now weathered postcard, the very first one, remained in a frame above the hearth. One evening, a young traveler staying at the villa stood staring at it. Sensing their hesitation about an upcoming solo trip, Emma smiled and said, "Maybe it's time for someone else to carry it forward." Emma gently removed the postcard from its frame and handed it to them. With misty eyes, Emma watched the traveler slip it into their backpack and walk out into the world, just as she once had. And just like that, the unexpected journey began again. Epilogue, the journey lives on. Years passed, and Casa do Coração became more than a retreat, it became a lighthouse, quietly guiding people back to themselves. Emma's once quiet Portuguese village now hummed gently with the footsteps of travelers from around the globe. Some arrived with heavy hearts, others with bright curiosity, but each left lighter, carrying with them a story, a lesson, or a simple sense of peace. Emma and Luca raised a child here, teaching them how to plant seeds in the garden, how to paint the morning sky with watercolors, and how to greet strangers with kindness. Pharaoh, the loyal dog, grew older but remained a fixture in every group photo, curled up near the fireplace, keeping watch over the home that saved him. Ava, now leading Open Heart Journeys as an international non-profit, often visited. She and Emma would sit on the villa's terrace, laughing about how far they had come, from two hesitant dreamers to women who helped thousands rewrite their own narratives. A quiet morning. One early morning, Emma stood on the cliffs, watching the waves roll endlessly toward the shore. She held a fresh postcard in her hand, blank except for a single line she had just written, "Wherever you go, leave space for wonder." She didn't know who would receive this one. Maybe a stranger would find it tucked between pages of a forgotten book, or maybe a friend would pass it along on a crowded train. But that was the magic of it. A final thought? Emma smiled, realizing that the unexpected journey was never just hers, it belonged to everyone who dared to step beyond the familiar. The journey never ends. It only passes forward, one open heart at a time. The end. Thank you for joining us today on this inspiring journey. Emma's story serves as a reminder that every step taken beyond our comfort zone holds the potential to change us. As you continue your studies here at World English Academy, we hope you will carry this message with you, embracing each challenge, each lesson, and each new opportunity with an open heart and a curious mind. At World English Academy, we are committed to guiding you on your own path of discovery and success, as you build the skills and confidence to navigate a globalized world. On behalf of our entire team, we thank you for your attention and participation today. We look forward to walking alongside you on your own journey of growth. Welcome once again to World English Academy.